The story actually started in the mid-70s. I'm not exactly sure how it started, but the stories of UFOs and this base existing started in the mid-70s. He says that there are tunnels that network underneath the United States, very deep underground. And there's a tunnel to the south of the mesa, according to one of the residents at the reservation. But I have yet to find that. Now, I did find one that was more to the west, and I will put a picture of that up. Okay. Some other names that are important, but I'm not sure of their credibility. All I do know is that when I listen to something, I keep one thing in mind. Is it crazy to the point where it's just completely insane and makes absolutely no sense? Or is it a story that is severely crazy but makes perfect sense if you open your mind to it? Well, now these people seem to make perfect sense. Now, granted, it's highly unbelievable, very, very highly unbelievable, but you got to think, who would take the time to perfect all of the details in their story without having some kind of factual background to it? It makes perfect sense to those who open their mind. Now, these names are John Lear, who sadly is gone. He is no longer with us. Apparently he committed suicide. That is what his death records say. However, there are certain factors in his death that lead it to be suspect of murder, but nobody wants to investigate it. John Rhodes, Phil Schneider is the one that died that way. I'm sorry about that. It's not John Lear. But anyways, John Lear, John Rhodes, and Phil Schneider. One more name is Gabe Valdez. He was an officer that dealt with cases in cow mutilation. He was interviewed for the Santa Fe newspaper. And he said that there's no explanation, and actually the case is still open, and it is still so secret that he can only show certain photographs and certain things, and he can only say certain things. He can only say so much because it is still an open case. So that's one thing to think about. Now, Project Gas Buggy was something to the effect of these people were drilling, and they found some kind of natural resource there, and for whatever reason they started dropping bombs in these holes that they were drilling, because they said that they needed to harvest this stuff. The funny thing is, I believe it was oil. The funny thing is that when you drop that bomb down there, that the resource actually gets contaminated with radiation. Now, if they were there for that resource, then why did you just ruin it all with radiation? It doesn't make any sense. Now, it doesn't make a lot of sense to the people that live near there, and they could feel the blasts, and some of them talk about it, that it was very strange that they would do that. And others are, well, you know, they fucked up, they didn't know about it back then, da-da-da-da, whatever, you know, whatever their argument is, I have no idea. But according to Phil Schneider, he was part of that, as far as I understand it. He was part of that. And they lowered somebody down into, or they lowered him down into this hole that they drilled, because they hit a cavern, and they lured somebody down there to see, you know, how deep it was, you know, what was down there, all that kind of shit. And when he was lowered down, he said he was face to face with one of the reptilian beings that were there, and he said he immediately shot and had them pull him back up. Well, when they did that, apparently it started a little war between everybody that was there and the reptilian beings under the surface, and apparently it was all covered up by some kind of fire that killed a bunch of people that were working there. Now, he claims that that was not the case, and the government's just trying to keep all of this secret. Now, apparently, I don't remember why exactly Phil was there, because he was a builder. He built the tunnels, and he helped build the underground bases and all that kind of thing. So I have no idea why he was there at that point in time, while they were digging for a natural resource that they killed off with radiation. Obviously he was there for a much bigger reason than that. And that right there in itself proves that they weren't there for that resource, because he has no expertise in that area. Some other things that I want to touch on that have to do with the conversation that the security guard had was, he was asked, what are the human and animal parts used for? And he went in to say that, you know, it's their food, they're used for experimentation, da-da-da-da. And then he goes in to say that DULCE is a small part of a bigger complex. There are other bases southeast of DULCE, one in Durango, Colorado, one in Taos, New Mexico, or Taos, however you say it. And Los Alamos is definitely a big part of that. DULCE, the town, lies over a crossroads to the outside parts, and it does connect with Area 51. Now, there are some people that speculate that Area 51 is a decoy for something much bigger. Well, is Area 51 the decoy for this much bigger, way more secret base? A lot of people have not even heard of such a base being there. A lot of people that live in DULCE have never even heard of the fact that there could be a base there, which is a prime example of how well hush-hush can be. So, that's one thing to think about. Now, apparently there are several different races of alien beings underneath of the surface. Oh, I need more coffee. And he goes through to name some of them. He says that there are beige or white beings, which are called the Draco. Apparently they are the head honchos of their races. There are other ones that are green or brown, which are more commonly known as the reptilians or the grays. There's a difference between the two, but apparently they are pretty much the same in color. Now, they say that they are an ancient race on Earth, and they've been living underground for a long time, way longer than we have been here as a human race.